Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar. My name is Sean Guy, Program Manager for CACA. We are thrilled to have you with us this special evening screening during the CACA web series. Before we begin, please remember that if you are using Zoom through your browser, you will have limited functionality during this webinar. If you are able, we suggest downloading the Zoom app through your computer or cell phone and launching webinars that way. Please email Megan Bach at mbaak@conferencecaw.org if you have any trouble. A few more housekeeping items before we begin. All attendees have been muted upon entry and will remain muted throughout the webinar. If you would like to make a comment to the entire group or answer a question, you can do so by selecting all panelists and attendees in the chat box. If you have any technical issues throughout the film, please select the other option in the chat box, all panelists, and we will help you out. You will also see the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. You won't need to use this feature unless the speaker conducts an informal survey at the end of the film and asks you to raise your hand. Please interact with the presenter and ask any questions via the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. The questions will most likely be answered at the end of the film. If you're having issues with your audio, please follow along via closed captioning at the bottom of your screen. You can also view a transcript of this film by navigating to the closed captioning box at the bottom of your screen and clicking View Full Transcript. At the end of the film, we will post a link to the evaluation in the chat box. You can also access the evaluation through the conference center. Please note that attendees needing accreditation must complete evaluations for every webinar, including this film, that they attend. Don't forget to mark your calendar for our upcoming webinar and networking events. You can find more details for all of these events on the homepage of the Conference Center. AMA or Ask Me Anything forums will give attendees the opportunity to ask anything of the featured expert in real time. Come prepared with your questions for Mark Wynn on August 5th at 11:30 a.m. Neelam Patel's guided discussion will be open for 1 week on Connect. She will be discussing autism and sexual assault, and attendees will be able to comment, provide feedback, and ask questions from Monday, August 10th through Sunday, August 16th, whenever your schedule allows. Note that after the week is up, you will still be able to see the discussion board, but it will no longer be regularly monitored. Remember, if you can't make an event live, you will have access to the recording via the Conference Center. If you have not already subscribed to the brand new podcast on crimes against women, you can do so anywhere podcasts are found. Our latest episode, Why Doesn't She Leave? An Officer's Perspective on Domestic Violence, features a conversation with Mark Wynn. You won't want to miss it. And now I'd like to introduce you to tonight's speaker, who will be hosting a Q&A after the screening. Nancy Schwartzman is a Peabody Award nominated documentary film director, producer, and media strategist who uses storytelling and technology to create safer communities for women and girls. Roll Red Roll is her feature film debut and goes beyond the headlines of the notorious Steubenville, Ohio high school sexual assault case to uncover the social media fueled boys will be boys culture that let it happen. Roll Red Roll premiered in 2018 at the Tribeca Film Festival and Hot Docs and has screened at over 40 film festivals worldwide and garnered 7 Best Documentary Awards. The film opened theatrically at the Film Forum in New York City and the Lamy Monica Film Center in Los Angeles to uniformly positive reviews with 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was a critic's pick in the New York Times and reviewed in the New Yorker, Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, the Chicago Tribune, The Guardian, and the Los Angeles Times, amongst others. Nancy appeared on CNN's Amirpur, BBC Women's Hour, and People TV. The film opened the 32nd season of the acclaimed PBS documentary series, POV, broadcast on BBC Storyville in the UK, and is now streaming in 190 countries on Netflix. And now, Roll Red Roll.
No, that girl. What do they do with that girl? She is so great right now. That's
Oh my god!
I caught him like,
This is the funniest thing ever.
News Radio 1170 WWVA.
Watch out for the weather out there today. Storm watch in effect for West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Cities included are Pittsburgh. So it's going to be a nasty bag of weather. Let's just put it that way. A couple of local stories for you. I'm working on a story out of Steubenville that is very, very disturbing. I can't give you many details right now. It's just one of those stories that, you know, you're talking about underage kids and you just have to cross a couple more T's. For Paul Morgan, I'm Bloom Daddy. Beck coming at you next. I'll see you tomorrow, same time.
It was early morning. Jane Doe, the victim, started getting text messages and chats. A picture was actually sent by a friend who said, "I think this is you." The parents made a report of a sexual assault, and I interviewed her that afternoon. It wasn't actually a very long interview when it comes down to it because she couldn't remember much. She knows she had been drinking and others had been drinking as well. Her next memory is waking up in the morning. That would have been Sunday morning of the 12th of August. Can't find her phone. She's not wearing any clothes. She's under a blanket. And in the room were both Trent Mays and Malik Richmond. Trent Mays was the primary suspect, and Malik Richmond was seen as having had some involvement. You know, I advised them that they do have rights, and both had chosen not to give a statement. Thank you. trying to get the truth from kids who, in a sense, are telling on friends. And that's maybe one of the biggest obstacles to overcome.
Sarah. Sarah, how you feeling? You sure? You nervous? Okay. All right.
Nothing to be nervous about. We don't bite.
You won't bite, won't yell, probably won't jump up and down and scream. But you were there. None of us were there.
Right.
So you saw things, you understood things, you heard things. Michael, Nodianis. Sorry. I need to know from you everything of your Saturday evening through Sunday.
Okay. Well, first we went to my friend's house. You need names or if they're not involved or anything?
I need everything, Mike.
Everything, okay.
Everything.
I mean, I walked in, and she's, like, there was a bunch of Central girls, and I was the only one from Big Red there at the point, but, like, so I was kind of uncomfortable, and she was the only one who, like, said hi to me, and she was like, hey, but I could tell that she was gradually getting more drunk and worse throughout the night. And then Mark, Trent, Malik, and Evan, I think, wanted to go. We just kept trying to tell her, if you don't want to go with them, you want to go back with your friends, or you're going to be more safe with them than you will with the boys.
Let me just say something here. What made you use that phrase, safer with us versus Trent and others?
Well, I mean, because I put myself in her situation, like, in my head, and I know that she didn't know, like, Malik or Mark or Evan, and she only knew Trent. And if I was her, like, I would rather be with friends, like, girls, than I would be with them. And, like, wake up at some boy's house and not knowing, like, what happened. Like, if she was my friend, like, if she was my close friend, then I would take the extra step and, like, make her stay. But, you know, I can't do that, so I just let her do what she wanted, which I understand was wrong.
They were helping someone out. Well, as I was walking in, they were helping a girl out.
Who was it?
I think it was, I know Trent was helping her. It might have been Malik was helping her too, but I can't remember.
We were in communication with the prosecution, and they said there's grounds to make an arrest. So the week later, they were arrested.
When I first read this story, there wasn't a lot of substance to the article. 2 high school football players had been charged, just a couple of paragraphs about these 2 boys, and that was it. I thought, this is nuts because that town is so entrenched in their football team. This is big news. I've been blogging for a long time, usually about true crime cases. Not everything is as it seems. If something stinks, I'm going to be the first person that calls it out. Where's your chewy at? Being from Steubenville, I developed a sense of what the community was like. Good girl. To me, it wasn't a very woman-friendly environment. So that's when I started snooping around. I went to the high school's website, pulled the roster of all the football players, and I started searching for any social media that they may have had online. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everyone had their full legal name. And I determined that after a scrimmage game for Big Red High School, there were several end of the summer parties that all of the kids were attending. There were tweets going around, everyone's having a great time, but then something changed. I sat up for hours and hours and just followed timelines, fanning out, who was retweeting what at a certain time. So it was almost like watching this in real time. By the end of the night, a young girl from across the river had been sexually assaulted. I was shocked. It's like a rotten onion. You peel one layer back and there's something equally as rotten underneath it.
Roll, Red, roll. Now, live from Harding Stadium, the home of the Big Red.
Kids are back in school, that can mean only one thing. It's time for high school football. The 2012 version of Super Bill Big Red opens the season with an opponent who is making its third trip to the Bill. The Tigers of C.C. Woodrow Wilson. The Red head coach leads the Crimson and Black.
We are still working a little blind off of just the evidence that we've been given. But this is being texted about, it's being tweeted, and it's amongst a student body that has just gotten into school. This was a tough enough investigation already because it involves people who all know each other.
Anything else, sir? Right. 16. I've been in that atmosphere. I've been in that kind of situation that those kids was in, and 9 times out of 10, and I'm not trying to call no one no or nothing, but 9 times out of 10. Woman engaged in it. Best way to put it. It's never been like, come on, let's go in this room and I gotta drag you, and I've never had, because I take the R word serious. I don't play with, that's one word I will not play with. May I help you?
Yes, pick up for blocker.
Is it a cake?
Yeah.
I think it was a party that got out of hand. When that kind of stuff happened when I was in school, you were a bad boy, You got suspended or disciplined. Now they want to put you in jail. And I'm not condoning any of it. It's just things have changed over the last 40 years.
Most of the people that what I heard talking, a lot of people would say, oh, you should see the picture she posted on Instagram, you should have seen the outfit she had on, and everybody was talking bad about Jane Doe, and I can't even imagine everybody in the area knowing, that that's my child, and this is what they did to her, and it's heartbreaking.
right, at 7:45, this is the latest on the incident out of Steubenville. All I can tell you is this. It's a she said, he said right now, without a doubt. You know, anybody can make an allegation. These girls at these parties sometimes maybe drink a little bit too much. Sometimes they get a little promiscuous. All of a sudden, they're being called, you know, a whore, what have you. And it's real easy to all of a sudden say you were taken advantage of rather than own up to the fact that, hey, look, I did what I did.
They're seduced too, yeah.
It's easier to tell your parents you were raped than, hey, Mom, Dad, I got drunk and decided to let 3 guys have their way with me. That's all I'm saying, based on who I've spoken to.
It wasn't just that she was raped, that they humiliated her. Song of the night, Rape Me. Noti, Some People Deserve to Be Peed On. Cody Saltzman takes a photo and posts it to Instagram. He tags it Sloppy. I figured at some point this stuff will probably disappear, so I kept screenshots for myself. I used some archive tools to go back looking for deleted information. I mean, once you start reading conversations among all of these kids, then you're going back for months and a year. I mean, you start finding all kinds of things. So, I mean, it was all out there. Just the complete lack of empathy, that was what was so frightening. And, you know, I had seen some local forums where the discussion was already escalating that she was not raped, and the victim blaming is starting by adults. These kids were openly calling it rape. If these kids are calling it rape, they knew it was rape. And it was at that point that I decided to post what was out there. Once I posted, it was mayhem. It got to the point that I couldn't even read through all the comments. I mean, people were upset, they were mad. It was crazy, the amount of traffic coming from Steubenville. But I think when people actually saw screen captures of what these kids were saying, it caused a very visceral reaction. People have a right to know.
Amen. Amen. Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. It seemed as if it hit social media and just exploded. As soon as the word was out, I started following the story. There were photographs starting to circulate already, and deleted text and all this type of stuff was going on. And the earliest photographs were very disturbing. You know, the idea of an incapacitated girl being drug around, you know, is horrible. And as a father, that's horrible. I mean, the last thing you want to do is imagine your daughter in that type of situation, or your boys in that type of situation.
I don't know. Maybe I'm sheltered. I don't even know, how do you have children that think that that's okay? If that would happen to one of my kids, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
Like maybe if she had been sending or posting inappropriate pictures of herself that possibly made the boys do what they did. And you can become known as a not so good person just for that. We weren't allowed to have Facebook until we were 16. I know a lot of people have created accounts behind their parents' backs. So you have the nice, perfect daughter account that mom sees, and then you have the little slut account that everyone else sees.
Honestly, this is terrible, but I didn't think that much about it. Yes, the boys were definitely not in the right, but she was also at a party that she probably shouldn't have been at.
She has to take responsibility for the choice she made to go to that party.
When you put yourself in that situation, you have to take some responsibility for your actions.
It was just a regular night, just a regular party. People just chilling for the most part. And I wasn't with them for, a portion of the night. That's when things got terrible.
Yeah, that's my boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He wrestled with me. He wrestled a weight class above me.
Mm-hmm.
We are partners, like really.
Growing up here was awesome. Football and all that in sports, it's like a brotherhood forever that you'll ever be a part of. Like a fraternity you can never get out of.
What our coaches and stuff told us, like integrity, courage, self-discipline, take responsibility in everything you do, and do right by yourself and by others, in the manliest way possible, and you know what I mean?
Trent got arrested. So we're just like, man, we're down a quarterback,
Yeah.
I'm going to read you a couple of emails. Let me start with this one. If you Google this Alex Goddard, she's indeed a cyberbully. What she's doing now, posting screenshots of tweets made by innocent kids, is a sin. Just because a kid retweets a post or replies to a post doesn't mean that kid had anything to do with rape. It's just creating more victims. Printyfield.com is not doing this community any favors. Continue to cover this news in a fair and balanced way. That's what separates the journalists from the others.
We got an email from someone that lives in the city of Steubenville, and it said, please pay attention to this. The local media is not going to pay attention to it. I did some preliminary looking, and I realized if we don't cover it, I'm not sure it will get covered the way it needs to. I probably covered hundreds of rape cases. You're always going to get two very different sides. But this was just at another level. We didn't know exactly what happened, but we knew there was a lot of defensiveness about it. For my initial piece, I did talk to Alex Goddard. What she was finding and what she was hearing was all playing into the context, was all playing into the feeling of what was going on down there. She helped raise a lot of questions about why people were responding so viscerally to everything that was going on. The question was, is this football town, putting its daughters at risk by protecting its sons in a situation like this? I had attempted to talk to the coach. It was kind of hard even to get into the stadium. A lot of people were kind of, dirty looking me when I tried to get down there. And I just wanted to ask him, did he know what his players were saying? Did he know what they were doing on social media? And he got really frustrated and started talking about how I got to protect these guys and, these are not bad kids and stuff like that. He didn't seem to really understand the gravity of the statements that some of the players were making, the context in which his players were speaking about young women in the town.
We asked School Superintendent Michael McVeigh why responsibility for disciplining any other players admittedly at the party was given to the football coach.
Do you see a possible conflict of interest there?
Protocol was followed, sir.
What is the protocol? Did you and the principal defer to the football coach?
We followed our discipline protocol as we usually do. And once everything's over, when the facts are out, then we will make our decisions of what has to be done or who was involved or who was not involved.
What did happen? Did you meet with Trent and Mark Cole? What did they tell you?
Nothing. They said, Coach, we did not screw that girl. We left the party, and her girlfriends told her not to come with us. We didn't want her to come with us. She started arguing with her girlfriends and got in the car with us. I said, did you kidnap this girl? They said, no. I said, did you put her in the trunk of a car? Because that's what was going on. They said, Coach, we never did none of that. She came with us. And I said, did you rape her? They said, no. I said, did you fuck her? They said, no. That was the end of it. That was it. It was over. So as a group, every day after practice, I would say to the kids, if you have anything to say, tell me. I'll help you out. I won't defend you if you're wrong, but I'll support you. That's what I said every day to them after practice. And those two boys, both of them told me that they were drinking that night. So I was going to suspend them. Well, this thing got so fucked up that I didn't do anything because it would make them look guilty. That's how I felt, so that's why I didn't suspend those two boys. I told them exactly how I felt about the drinking, and I said, you count this as a favor from God. I said, because if you're drinking, you're off this team. Yep. Even when you took their phones. I said, rape. They ain't getting for rape. I said, they didn't rape her. I said, they might have screwed her. You're right, they did.
Well, wait. Hold on. They would not have been arrested if there wasn't strong evidence to say that they raped her. And any kind of penetration on any part of her body is what's under rape. And I realize that. That's another thing the public is really stupid on.
So can't you use another word for rape?
Coach.
No,
I don't come up with the law.
No, I'm just saying, if it's such a big...
Well, the other piece comes in this, that the person is not able to consent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They can't say yes or no. If someone is so out of it, they can't give you a yes, sure, I can have sex, or no.
I hope the truth does come out. Even if they're guilty of rape, but they didn't do this and that and whatever everybody's saying they did, I hope, that the truth comes out.
pictures, text messages, social media's role in this case and how it helped us was documentation. You know, there's a date and time. So they provide for us evidence from something about our victims, that span of time that she has no memory of. I had never seen a case constructed like this. I have yet to have a case with that many elements in play, that many people who have some information about my victim's process from A, B, C. I mean, she was in 3 different places. So to start, you know, there is this party and it's in Steubenville, and this first party A, we'll call it.
What's happening at this party? Is this wild party, people jumping all over the place, or is this like everyone's kind of sitting around talking?
Everyone was just, you know, sitting around talking music. It was kind of crowded. There was probably about 30 people there.
They were playing games, whatever, beer pong, and people were just like hanging out, talking. Like everyone had their own cliques or groups, and
She was definitely, her and Trent were all over each other the whole night, pretty much.
Okay. When you say all over, just so they kind of help you see that.
Just like, not kind of like holding hands, just hugging and stuff all night, I guess, really. Basically by themselves talking, you know.
Our victim is there, and we know, and she remembers clearly meeting Trent Mays at the party. She already knew him. She already been in communication and contact with him. I do believe, too, that she remembered seeing and maybe having spoken to Malik as well. And from there, they drive to another get-together, let's call it B. Party B is happening over here, and that is still also in Steubenville, not far from at all from point A.
And at Jake's, we were just there for a while. I'm not sure how long exactly, but maybe like 45 minutes or so.
Is she in a different state?
Yeah, because she couldn't walk, and
From the time I seen her at Cammy's and Jake's, it was just like completely different. She was completely different, like, and she couldn't even respond, really.
That's where the picture was taken. One of the girls talks about how, you know, as they're trying to carry her, you know, Trent's like stepping on her hair. So she says, you guys got to carry her in some other way. So Malik carries her then to the car. We believe that's where her memory is of sitting on a street throwing up.
And I even told Trent, I said, take her back to Cammy's, and he said that he was going to take care of it. And I like tried to get it through his head to take her back to Cammy's, but obviously she wanted to go back. He wanted her to go with him. And
I was arguing with Trent that night. I was just so mad. Like, basically just made me so mad. I just walked inside. I just didn't want to be around it.
She is then brought to C, and we know at C that is where some of the other boys there, they see what happens from Trent and Malik to our victim. There definitely were marked moments during that night where you had hoped for some kind of a hero or someone to step in.
You don't want to call these. Down here. All right. Go right to the corner, okay? How many pictures did you take while you were at the house?
2.
Describe each picture to me.
There was one, it was just her back, basically just her. You couldn't see anything. And then,
what do you mean by just her back?
It was just like her laying on the ground.
Anyone by her?
No. Another one was the one where the boys were actually touching her imperfectly.
There's no other picture that I'm going to find on your phone. If you do take more, please.
I'm trying to. No, I'm honestly. Yes, I'm
not where you want to be telling me, and it gets processed, and there is more.
No, I'm honestly trying to think. There might have been 3. It was 2. It was just go with 3.
Okay.
Just in case, because I can't remember. One might have been blurry, or I honestly can't remember.
What is your intent when you're taking these pictures?
Honestly, I wasn't taking them to make fun of the girl or anything like that. I was like scared and mad at Trent, and at first I took him to show honestly at first my dad, because I was about the whole thing, but then I got so scared and I just deleted it.
At any point did you touch her?
No, I promise on everything.
Well, but you realize you told us before Friday you didn't give us this information, so that's why I'm asking this question again, because it's going to come back and it's going to really haunt you. We're going to want to be able to say, well, this guy's reliable, he told us everything, and then all of a sudden, damn it, here's this.
I'm going to apologize for that. I know it doesn't mean anything, but...
No, it does. I forgive you, but you got to be straight with me now on. I can't have any punches pulled. You're not coming against Malik, you're not coming against Trent, you're not knocking on anyone, because this is damn serious. We want to know what happened to this girl.
I didn't think that reposting what these kids did was doing anything wrong, because I'm not writing the story here, their words are. Probably 99% of the things that were being whispered in my ear in the background, that's never been put out on the blog. You know, I wasn't going to use my blog as, you know, a gossip mill. You know, people commented on my blog because they wanted an anonymous outlet to talk about this, because they feared harassment. Sit, good boy. But probably after I was sued for defamation of character is when I was really like, they mean business, they're pissed. I think the people in Steubenville, they hate my guts. They hate my freaking guts. And it's okay that they hate me. I did what I thought was the right thing to do. I didn't know whether or not my safety was in jeopardy. After the defamation suit, it created kind of a chilling effect on the blog because people were afraid of commenting since we'd already been sued. I really haven't been blogging a lot since. I've had horrible things said about me. It hurts, but it's their right to have that opinion. I'm not going to file freaking lawsuits. I'm not sure how the New York Times found out. I think the family, by virtue of suing me, brought attention to Steubenville, Ohio. People were bullying and harassing me, but then the tweets changed. Blogger get sued for defamation, hashtag free speech, hashtag anonymous. And then on Christmas Day, that's when crap hit the fan.
Citizens of the world, we are anonymous. We are NightSec. Around mid-August 2012, a party took place in a small town in Ohio known as Steubenville. We are anonymous. On this fateful night, a life was changed forever as a group of the football players of Big Red High School began taking advantage of an underage girl. This is a call to arms. The girl was sexually assaulted, raped, and drugged unconscious from party to party. We are anonymous. We are Knights. The town of Steubenville has been good at keeping this quiet and their star football team protected. We are anonymous. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Make no mistake. You can hide no longer. You have attracted the attention of the hive. You now have the world looking directly at you. Wise not to shield the guilty. Pop roll, red roll. Engaged. Expect us.
Oh my God! I called him, I was like, wait, Dodie, that girl, what do they do with that girl? Oh my God, she is so great. Dead boy.
How do you feel on a dead girl?
Are you serious?
You don't need any foreplay for dead girl. If it ain't wet now, it ain't ever gonna be wet. To be honest. Trust me, I'm a doctor.
I didn't want to.
She's dead because there was a naked picture on her, laying in the butt, and she wasn't moving. There's usually a reaction to that.
What is wrong with you?
She's deader than OJ's wife.
Is she gonna feel it?
She's dead.
Oh my God. Why can't you?
That's like rape. It is rape.
Bro,
they raped her.
You do it? Bro.
They raped her.
This is the funniest thing I've ever
They raped her harder than that cop raped Marcellus Wallace in Pulp Fiction. They raped her quicker than Mike Tyson raped that one girl. It isn't really rape because you don't know if she wanted to.
She might have wanted to.
The attempts to minimize this were shot to hell when the Michael Nodianos video was published. This is the first time that rape culture was put in their face. You know, a lot of people didn't even know what the word was. What is rape culture? But they do now.
If you got something to say, come up.
I'm gonna speak up. Are you gonna speak up?
We drove past the Gore House, and it was a little bit freaky seeing them with the masks and everything. That freaked me out a little bit, and they kept having the rallies downtown and everything, and it was just kind of scary knowing that there was that spotlight on our town now.
We do not forgive, we do not forget.
I
admire this girl. She had enough guts to go press charges against her rapist. That's something I didn't get to do. And we need to be there with her when she's in court. We need to help her get through this.
There's a big protest that you can see that's going on right behind me on the steps of the Jefferson County Courthouse.
Over the weekend, more than 1,000 showed up outside the county courthouse.
Shame on you! Shame on you! We are not
NBC, CBS, CNN, Fox, ABC, Dr. Phil, Judge Janine, Piers Morgan, Dr. Drew, you name it, they were in Steubenville. And let me just say this. It was wrong what they did. So nobody out there starts misconstruing. That's why I almost I can't wait for this story to go away.
I just didn't understand it at all because I don't think it's something that doesn't occur in other cities and states and counties all over. I really don't understand what was going on.
My name's Angela.
My name is Sarah. I grew up here. I was born and raised here.
And I was born and raised right here in Steubenville.
My name's Alicia. I'm a citizen of Steubenville
and
here.
At the age of 14, I was raped by a star football player that I had a crush on.
I was raped in 2000.
I thought he was so nice.
I was drugged, carried limp, and nothing became of it.
And those friends didn't believe me.
I said no, repeatedly. I was pinned down and there's no way I could have moved.
I'm 58 years old and I was sexually assaulted 50 years ago as a child.
It's been over 30 years for me, and I was 5 years old.
I was raped when I was 11. When I was 15, I was raped. When I was in my mid-20s.
And I was raped by 2 high school senior boys who were my babysitters.
I was drugged by a 26-year-old man. A lot of people around me didn't believe me. They thought I was stupid because I went to a party.
I fought for my life because I didn't want it to happen again.
My name is Michelle. I'm 51 years old. Never told anybody, kept it hidden, and my heart breaks for this little girl.
I wasn't going to speak. I had no intention of going up there and speaking. But as soon as I got there, I don't know what it was. As soon as I saw those steps and those people speaking, I just made a beeline for them steps and went up there, and it's like I want to talk.
You have no idea what it feels like to go through what I went through.
Anybody that's been sexually assaulted wears a mask because of the shame.
For 10 years, I was afraid to walk outside my house.
Didn't want to go to the mall, get out of my car. I was afraid of everything.
I couldn't do anything, and I had nobody, and I was alone.
And until you get your story out there, until you can release that, until you get rid of that shame, that's when the mask comes off.
Thank you all for being here for this girl. She deserves everybody's support.
And I won't put up with that anymore. If you have been assaulted, speak up. It is not your fault. It is not your fault. We're here for you.
The rally was a lot of things, not just a protest. Just to see, to these women getting up there and taking their mask off and then just watching. It's like this transformation because they were able to say it and to release it.
And now, local police are under fire from protesters who say they slow-walked the case to protect the football program.
We want justice! We want justice!
Protest across the street that we're not doing our job. We were doing our job.
I freak out at just how big this case got. Went through the Twitter accounts and I found, very disturbing messages. There were things online that the local media was not presenting or hadn't found.
I'm extremely proud of what she's done, but she's definitely made a lot of people angry.
La violación no es un deporte. Se lee en uno de los carteles que llevan los manifestantes frente al ayuntamiento de Steubenville en Ohio.
High School Football Teams aus der US-Stadt Steubenville im Bundesstaat Ohio.
question the culture that we live in. It's kind of that thing, you kind of have to step into another person's shoes and realize that, you know, it's a person we're talking about.
We all have a voice, and it will be heard eventually, if not today, tomorrow. It will happen.
This is for Jane Doe. She needs to be protected.
There's been accusations that Jane Doe has to relive this all the time. You know, I question whether or not am I re-exploiting her, and I've struggled with that. This picture's been out there. And when I posted it, I pixelated her entire body out to protect her. And it gets difficult for me because, you know, am I making her relive this by being vocal and demanding that Steubenville now, you know, that they do the right thing? Sorry.
Back up a minute. I'm going to slow you down a little bit, and I'm going to ask you some questions. You may or may not be able to answer, but I believe you'll be able to answer these. What is the conversation that's taking place in regards to either Trent, Malik, Evan, and you? Don't sugarcoat nothing. You're not hurting them guys. Those guys put themselves in this jackpot. In your fucking house. In your mom's house. And here you are, what, 17? You're a fucking man. Is there anything else, I want you to look him in the eyes, anything else you're leaving out here? Man up. Be responsible for your actions. I know Reno taught you better. You said you're a football player. Fucking man up.
I think they were talking about training her.
Why do you believe they were talking about training her? What makes you believe that?
That's what they were talking about earlier in the night, like when we were first leaving.
They were talking about this in a car?
Yeah, like going to Jake's house.
Who was the one mentioning about the train?
Trent and Malik.
Trent and Malik both?
Yeah.
Okay. And did anybody else say anything in regards to that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
If someone says gang rape, I would say, can you tell me what you mean? Can you tell me more about it? Tell me what happened. If someone said the train, I would say, can you tell me what you mean? I feel like I'm going to get about the same. Numerous people having sex with one person.
So this was well known among everybody, the train thing and their intentions. They were going to get an easy lick because you got zero resistance.
This won't hurt. All I have to do is swallow in your mouth.
A typical case, you have the word of a victim alone, which is sufficient. I mean, the case law and the jury instructions are very clear. The word of a victim alone is sufficient to prove a fact, if believed. And in this case, it was a little different because we had the victim's word that, I don't remember what happened. This was a sexual assault with teenagers, and the cell phone told the story.
Our client, Trenton Mays, did not rape the young lady in question, and it's the state's burden of proof to show that he did.
I think this was unique in the sense that Anonymous got involved. Certainly it was unique in the media attention it garnered. The stress level for the victim was off the charts. This was kind of foisted upon her because no matter what, she still gets scrutinized, even though, you know, she's not the person accused of a crime. Michael Nodianis, who was not there at Mark's house, his video, in a very odd way, became the backbone of our investigation because we could tell who was saying what. But his video is not a crime. It does shock your conscience, but it's not a crime. Cody Saltzman. He's the one that posted the first picture on Instagram. But that in and of itself is not a crime. Yes, we had photos. We had 400,000 text messages. Even with the mountain of social media, we could not prove penetration without eyewitnesses. The three individuals, the three boys in the room with Trent and Malik were Mark Cole, it was his house, Anthony Craig, who took photos, and Evan Westlake. And he was the one who, of course, made the video.
It's the funniest thing ever.
I could not prove penetration without them. So we had to give them immunity.
The town of Steubenville, Ohio has been rocked by allegations that two of its star high school football players raped a 16-year-old girl last summer. Now, this case has drawn national attention, and this morning the two teens go on trial.
My client was a juvenile, so he has limited number of years on the earth to even know the quality of the decisions and or the ramifications. God made him big. He also made him shy. And he's in a town that's depressed. He's in a town that loved this football team. And a lot of it was circumstantial for him. Based on the evidence, a lot of it was wrong place, wrong time.
What we had to prove is that the defendants engaged in sexual conduct in a circumstance where the victim is substantially impaired.
Well, in the state of Ohio, the law is that if one is substantially impaired, then they cannot properly give consent. Even if they do give consent, the impairment negates the consent that was given. If both parties, as was in this case, were intoxicated, and if that's the basis for rape, the question becomes who raped who? The young lady admitted to drinking alcohol. She admitted to drinking a large cup of alcohol. While in this state where she can't recall events, the victim here gave access code to her cell phone. Giving someone access to a phone is a form of consent. And this is not a victim blame. But this young girl consented at one point in the evening to being in a company of these young boys. People would say it's okay for this young woman to have made this choice, but the moment that the choice was wrong, it's not her fault anymore.
So now, how do you all get her downstairs?
Malik carried her.
Malik carried her?
Trent or both of them carried her.
Downstairs?
Yes.
Okay. Who's all now downstairs?
Me, Trent, Malik, and Evan.
Okay. So now, what did he do with the girl at that point?
They had set her on the floor, and she was sitting there, and that's when, like...
And this is like, what, a rec room, or what do you have downstairs here?
found in my record, there's a coffee table and there's 2 couches.
Okay.
And the TV's up here. So she was sitting kind of like in front of the TV almost. She was sitting there for a second, then she just like leaned back over, like fell to her side, and that's when she had threw up on the floor, and I had cleaned it up. That's when I got a call from Anthony Craig.
What's the first thing you see when you get in that house?
Mark they were in the basement, and I was like, where are they?
Where's Evan at?
When I saw him, he went back to the couch.
Okay.
When she was on the floor, I know Malik was behind her, fingering her. And just one time I seen Trent putting his penis on her.
Where at? When he puts it on, or where at? On what part?
Her butt.
Okay. Does he try to insert his penis into her mouth?
Yes.
And what is she doing?
Just laying there.
Okay. Was she saying anything?
No. I wouldn't say she was completely passed out.
Okay.
And out of it, but she wasn't in any state to make a decision for herself.
Malik was very much following the lead sent by Trent Mays. You didn't see Malik try to manipulate the victim. She didn't know Malik, but Trent Mays, he had really singled her out. She had met Trent before these parties and was interested in dating him. She thought she knew him, and she thought she could trust him. He played on that. He knew who she was. He knew she was an outsider. He knew how drunk she was. There's no question about that, because everybody there did. He used that. You know, come with me. Come to this other party. Come into the car. He used her like a toy.
What are we going to find on your phone?
On my phone, you will find the picture.
What picture?
It was her laying on the couch.
Why will that picture be on your phone?
Trent sent it to me.
And when did he send it to you?
In the morning.
These other boys weren't asking for the picture. Trent was sending it out to make fun of her, to degrade her even further. If you're looking at photos, you're a witness. If you're passing the photos, that's a crime. Even if it's to your buddy and you think it's a big joke, that's a crime.
I did delete that because I knew that something should be on my phone.
And why shouldn't it be on your phone?
At the time, I wasn't even thinking about like the child pornography. I just knew there was something that, because I don't know this girl or anything, I just didn't think it should be on my phone.
That gives you some insight into Trent Mays' personality. You talk about predatory nature, and then you see it like that in such a young kid that had so much promise otherwise on the outside. And it makes you stop and wonder, you know, how does that happen?
Is there anything that Trent Mays would like to say?
I would truly like to apologize to our family, my family, and the community. No picture should have been sent around, let alone even taken. That's all, sir. Thank you.
Anything you'd like to say, Malik?
I would like to apologize to you people. I had no intention to do anything like that. I'm sorry to put you guys through this. That's just like... I want you to relax better, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't want to...
This case does highlight the power of peer pressure. Everybody was saying stuff. Everybody was laughing about it. But there were kids that we met during our investigation who were, for the most part, really good kids. Like Sean McGee, who were like, no, this is all wrong.
Well, yeah, I had to testify in court. It was terrible because it was my really good friends, you know, involved.
He said, come on, bro, we're going. Bro, you raped a girl. I knew forever. Trent and Malik raped someone. That's like, this is not like funny. Like, yeah, it's hilarious.
I'm sorry, but Nody's funny.
It's not.
This is the funniest guy.
You know, quite often I just wish I was with my friend Trent the whole night and, you know, nothing would have ever happened. The love and care I have for my friends, so I just didn't want to see them in any bad situations. And I just wish it never happened, and I don't know. For the most part, there was no negative fallout on me speaking up. Everyone knew that, you know, what I was saying was in the right. People were like not thinking what the reality of the situation was.
Throughout the investigation, because everybody was asking questions, not only how this happened among the teenagers, but which adults knew about this. Did adults know that something happened and not report it? People were asking the question, what was going on in Steubenville?
A notorious rape case took an unexpected turn today. Charges were filed against the superintendent of schools, a principal, and 2 coaches.
After the August rape was reported, there was kind of an explosion of conversation about an incident that happened in April.
Is it true that some of these charges do not relate to the rape case that we all understand, the 16-year-old, the 2 boys who were arrested, that some of the charges are related to an earlier rape of a 14-year-old student who came forward after the publicity over the case that we're all aware of? Is that true? Do these charges stem from separate incidents?
I will simply say that there was a separate incident.
There were a number of adults that were aware that something happened way back in the spring, in April, and involved a young woman in a very similar situation to what happened in August.
It was on Twitter, actually. They had all tweeted about it in April.
What we do know is that she was a 14-year-old girl. She had had a lot to drink, and at some point, she was not completely conscious. She was in a room that was mostly full of boys, and she was naked. Some of the witnesses told police they heard Trent Mays and Anthony Craig may have had sex with her. That wasn't something she really had a recollection of. Although she did tell police that afterwards, people started telling her things. Some people started calling her a slut or a whore in school. that some of the guys had run a train on her. She did tell police that she didn't want to get anybody in trouble for what happened. That and the fact she was really being harassed for whatever happened that night, and a lot of blame being placed on her.
It seems that the grand jury was able to look back in time and actually punish a pattern of conduct, which is really what a lot of people in the community were calling for, right?
We had adults who were frankly more worried about protecting an institution or worried about protecting some kids, and they were not concerned about the victim. And that's really what this is about, a failure to protect the victim.
It's more about the culture that contributed to the rape in the first place. If someone who's really important to your school or your town or your football team is accused of something, there's always going to be a lot of people coming to their aid to explain what happened or what didn't happen. If people knew about this in April, if teachers knew about it, if coaches knew about it, if a principal knew about it, if parents knew about it, why was nothing done about that? And then we have August.
I don't know, you wish that the coaches, the adults, whoever, all these people that were involved had not chosen to do what they did. No one said this was a big mistake, this was super bad behavior, this is not how men should behave, this is not how women should be treated. That's one of the things that felt like a failure.
The town's in need of healing and unification. It's in need of building of community. As largely publicized and national as that went, how do we overcome that? There's something, I don't know how to say it on camera because it's not very popular. One of the ways that we could heal is to actually address rape and make a place of healing for victims, perpetrators, or family members of rape. Because crime, all crime, affects an entire community, especially something as grievous as rape.
You know, there's a part of this town and the community that I think, you know, especially because the school is involved, there was those who sided and those who don't. I saw people respond that way. I'd run into people in the store and right away they would be attacking, you know, part of the lesson learned here that I have is victim blaming. Blaming the victim, blaming the victim. I'm sorry, that's not what this investigation is about. In the sense for a town moving forward, this is just still a long way to go.
We're not convicting an entire team. And people need to remember that. There are a lot of individuals up there who are good students, good kids, good football players. This is one of the preeminent programs in the state of Ohio. This is how we identify. And that's what gave it the air of, okay, we don't have to answer to anybody. But that's the mentality that's got to go. Then the truth does get out. And then let the chips fall where they may.
The tattoo means in Latin, always the truth. And I wanted to get something that signified the journey that I had been on. And I just thought that that was very profound. And so I got it. I don't even think I put a label on it about what happened. And it was a guy who I was dating who was older than me. His brother raped me. And I kept it quiet. It doesn't define who I am. But of course, somebody that has been through that, it's gonna hit home. So, you know, when I saw this going on, you know, I felt an obligation to do something. People are still mad, they're still talking about it, so I think that things can change.
Am I wrong to feel pain?
Wow. That was powerful, Nancy. Thank you so much for putting together such a creative video.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me to share it with you all.
And Alex. What was Alex's role again? I'm sorry, if you can refresh me.
Yeah, Alex Goddard has joined us. And
She was
Alex
the journalist.
is the blogger.
Right.
There she is. I haven't seen Alex in a while. Alex is the person who uncovered initially the evidence and really pointed a lot of attention to what was going on and made sure it didn't get deleted or disappeared.
Yeah, I was sitting watching it and I was like, man, if Alex didn't do what she did, I mean, where would this have gone? You know, this could have just gone in or not gone anywhere, right?
Mm.
Alex, did you have a few words?
No.
No? You prefer a direct question?
Yeah.
We could
So,
ask
like,
Alex what inspired her to get involved. Let's say what really like inspired you. Why did you feel like you had to get involved?
I think it was just the shock at how the community was treating the Jane Doe, and you know, seeing not just kids who did nothing that night, but watching as adults started saying really horrible things about her, and you know, putting these boys on a pedestal just because they were athletes. And so
Right.
that I just felt like she didn't have a voice, and that, you know, somebody had to step up and defend her because no one else was.
Did you find that even though people saw the video, they still were in denial?
Yeah, they were awful. Like, there were just things on local forums and you know, out on Twitter that were adults were saying that were just, it was terrible.
Yeah, that's so hard to believe. Well, I mean, I know it happens, but every time I hear it, it's just still so hard to believe. Nancy, did you find making the documentary difficult due to the nature of the subject, like interviewing witnesses, and were people willing to cooperate?
You know, a lot of times people ask me about who isn't in the film, like how come you didn't talk to this person or this person or this person? I reached out to like absolutely everyone involved. And so all the people in the film are those that were willing to speak out. So it was really hard because, you know, first and foremost, it's a small town, so everybody knows each other. So it's quite hard to rock the boat in a small town because everyone has to live together. But also the overall culture of the town was really about, you know, celebrating football, had a really no understanding of rape culture, that a girl is never asking for it. They're kind of using a framework of like 1950s norms for teenagers who are growing up on the internet, steeped in internet porn, and who are committing crimes every weekend. So people really, you know, they don't take well to outsiders. It took a long time to get close, but there were people who wanted things to change in town. They're not as vocal as you would think they would be, but I think once the film came out, people felt like it was fair and they were glad it was out. Not everyone, but yeah.
Yeah, that I'm glad you said that. I was wondering if people felt like the documentary was a good representation of all the events. I have another comment/question. First of all, they would like to thank you for your bravery. And regarding the ineffectiveness of the adults, the teachers, coaches, they're mandated reporters. So how are they not held accountable? And either one of you can answer.
I think what you see in the film is why there was a tiny bit of repercussions for some of the adults is because they didn't do that for a prior rape. But no, it's astounding how badly the school handled it, how many violations there were, how the teachers are sort of texting the students and believing a 15-year-old boy or 16-year-old kid, oh, well, we asked him and he said nothing happened, so we're going to take it on his word. There really wasn't appropriate repercussions, but the little ones that there were because of a failure to report a prior incident, which means there had been a culture of this going on at the school. But Alex, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, Ohio, we do have mandatory reporters. All of those teachers were mandated by state law, and yet no one did it. So, I mean, it's a culture there. This has been going on for a long time. When I was first writing about all of this, I had so many women who told me from 20 years ago that these same types of crimes had happened against them. So I think that the teachers, one, didn't report because they were afraid of losing their jobs, which was, you know, several teachers had told me that. And then second, you know, they too were putting these kids on a pedestal simply because they were athletes.
Yeah, and really still in this mindset that if something happened to the girl, it's because she's fast or a slut. And the little girl in the previous case, at the end of the movie, Rachel DeSalle starts talking about a case that was really similar to the August Jane Doe case. She was 14 years old, new in school, not connected to any like important family. So she was really like vulnerable and on her own. And one of the coaches reprimanded her because he had heard there had been a party, and he shamed her in the hallway and reprimanded her basically for being a slut, which is insanity. This is a 50-year-old man talking to a 14-year-old girl who was assaulted by all of these boys. So they're still in this mindset that a girl or a woman brings it upon herself. It's a very dangerous, outdated mindset around sexual violence.
Absolutely. Another question for either one of you. What role do you think social media plays in uncovering these crimes? On one hand, it brings them to light, but on another hand, it makes them sometimes difficult to prosecute. Your thoughts?
I'm going to let Alex take this one first.
I think in this particular one, this really was the first rape case that played out on social media. I mean, it was in real time, going through timelines of kids. And, you know, as the prosecutor said, that social media is what got this case, got them, you know, they were able to press charges against the kids. As far as did it make it more difficult to prosecute? I think maybe morally it did, because public opinion of all of these kids, but legally, all of this social media, I mean, it's what put the hammer down. It's why they were given sentences in juvenile, because everything that they did was documented online and through their phones.
While we're on that same track, did you feel like the police found you as a collaborator or as an instigator or as a hindrance, or all of the above?
Probably all of the above.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had heard, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Nancy.
That's great. Those are great words for you, Alex. What was it? Instigator, collaborator, or hindrance? I feel like I need to write that down. That was good. But you know, also for the police, just as Alex said, this is the first time something had played out like this on social media. So if you imagine like your parents being like, what is all this technology? I mean, that's basically how the police had to respond to a bunch of teenagers looking at their phones, learning what the platforms are. Sorry about there's some helicopters overhead. Learning what the nicknames, you know, abbreviations, like, so they had to learn all of this language. And I think for police, there was a lot of smoking guns in the social media, but also a lot of bragging. So kids are bragging. Is that a confession? Is that a truth? So they had to kind of also weed through, which I tried to show in the film, like the nuances between like a kid grandstanding on text message versus a kid being really humble and pretending to be really afraid in a police interrogation video. So there's all these different ways we all occupy different identities in our social media. And this is such an interesting way to like unpeel it. And what Alex was talking about with these adults who would never say these kinds of things in the town square, but are going to go online on a blog and slut shame a 15-year-old girl. You know, it's really interesting what an anonymous or online platform, what that unleashes in us as people and how we talk to each other.
That's a good point. Do you think we are making progress on ending rape culture with films like this and the hashtag Me Too movement? Have you seen bystander intervention increase since the film was released? And I can read those over again if you like.
Sure. I mean, I think, you know, I think there's been a ton of change across the board because of the Me Too movement. And this case is a powerful ember in the fire of Me Too. This was 2012. This was coming off the heels of the military rape scandal and the invisible war. This is coming off the heels of legitimate rape, when Republicans were talking about legitimate rape versus fake rape or whatever they were talking about. So I think our consciousness has really expanded. Like it or not, I mean, there's been a massive backlash because of this. But just watching, you know, 2012, the drumbeat of all of this was a really important case in the entire, I think, sort of canon of what led to Me Too. In the aftermath, there was just a lot of stuff that came to light. I think what did change is this idea that it's okay to have open secrets. Harvey Weinstein was an open secret. Oh, everyone knows if you go in a room alone with Harvey, you're in danger. Okay, let's usher this young actress in there. It's like, that doesn't happen anymore. And like Trent primarily, the football team was kind of an open secret. Steubenville behavior was kind of an open secret. And I think in general, our tolerance for that, just like what's happened with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, a lot of companies are suddenly having to reckon with their massive race problem, the way they hopefully did, you know, 3 years ago with their sexism and violence problem. So I think the tolerance for it is lower. More people are aware and more people are angry, but like, this is we're in such crazy times that everything feels really up in the air right now. There was something else I was going to say about that. Me Too movement, tolerance for rape
Bystander
culture.
intervention.
Yeah, I mean, look, we are poised to have, we've been to a ton of schools last year. We're working with the NCAA on a toolkit, but like everything is, I mean, what is school right now? So, I mean, we're a little bit out of being able to measure these things, but I think what this film was trying to do, and I think it did, was bring men into the conversation. So bystanders is too vague. Violence against women, for the most part, is committed by men. So women know, I love this, even the whole frame of this conference, and it should be like all men attending so that they can help end the problem, right? So I think what the film was trying to do was sort of set the responsibility on our male allies to do this work, because Alex is done, I'm done, all the people in the town square talking about their rape stories are done. Like, we've had the violence committed to us. Who's going to change it, right? So there's similar parallels too with Black Lives Matter. Like, this is a white people problem, you know, and like Black people are the victims. So what are we all doing to make this problem better? So, oh yeah, good point, Jose. Yoho calling AOC fucking bitch, right? Excuse my language, everyone, but literally that's what a elected representative did, and her response was beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was a deeper call out, just because you're a father, right? So all these coaches in Steubenville who have daughters and granddaughters, and it's like, that does not absolve you. What are you doing every day? Why do you think it's okay to dehumanize women? So I think everyone's tolerance is pretty short right now. I was probably more optimistic 6 months ago before the pandemic, but I think there's an evolved consciousness around, it's a shared responsibility at the very least. So
yeah, you make some very good points there. This is from an attendee, and it's more of a comment, but it's staggering to see so many adults bully a young woman. The behavior might be expected of students, but it's shocking from the media, faculty, community members. Have any of them expressed regret since the film was released? And Nancy or Alex can answer. No regret?
Alex, do you want to say anything?
No, they have not. And basically they've just, they're committed. I could say that for them. I mean, they are still, they won't talk about this. It's very sore subject. They've not had any educational training sessions at the schools. I mean, they've done nothing.
That's so disconcerting. I mean, I guess we look at these films and we're expecting a happy ending. Everybody gets it, turns things around. There's a paradigm shift. The narrative has changed, but that's just not the case, huh?
But the valley, the surrounding valley, I mean, on the plus side, right, is that we have other communities nearby that might not have had this film to point to, but knew what happened in Steubenville was terrible, but maybe didn't have a way to like learn from it. We got a lot of asks in Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cleveland, West Virginia. So it's like the needle may not have shifted in Steubenville, but certainly it impacted youth sports. And, you know, we got this in front of a lot of sports, and, you know, look.
And who knows, people may be wrestling with it in their quiet space or in their closets, if you will, and not be vocalizing, you know, not be vocalizing the change that's going on with them, but they may be, you know, they may be sitting with it in a private way. I'm hoping that that's what's going on. I mean, it sounds like their beliefs, as twisted as they may be, are just so deeply embedded.
Mm-hmm.
It would take a lot of strength to unpack, you know what I mean, all the things that make rape culture okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I just really appreciate this film, and Alex, all your work that you did before this film to make people start unpacking. Okay, so we have about 20 minutes, so let me get these questions through. I personally struggled with the way the coach explained his questions to the boys involved when he was being interviewed by the police. He never asked, "Did you hurt this girl?" His questions were phrased disrespectfully and basically in a gross, vulgar way. How do you think we can raise the bar for our coaches? Great question.
That is a good question. We have an amazing toolkit that will be ready really soon. You know, so the thing about, so I'll finish that thought, but so we have an educational manual that's free on our website that goes with the film of how to like lead a discussion. And then we fitted it out for coaches, and we did a lot of work with Futures Without Violence. They have a program called Coaching Boys into Men. I don't love that curriculum. I think it's a little basic. So I think ours is a little, this film's really hard hitting and it is locker room talk. So I think the toolkit is a good way to get coaches to be able to address these things. The coach in that moment in October when he was interrogated was so cocky. He didn't think this film was gonna, this film was not gonna get made, but the case was gonna be in the New York Times and then blow up, right? He thought he could behave with impunity as he always had. So yes, he was totally vulgar. Meeting him months later, his tune had changed quite a bit. He was much more humbled in person, but he wouldn't get on an interview with me. So I think he had a lot of shame around it. And I wish that he could have participated in the film as someone who had been humbled, to show other coaches it's okay to make a mistake. It's a generational thing. I messed up. I'm sorry. Like I really wanted him to do that because I think it could have been a game changer for older coaches like him, but he wouldn't. So then I have him in the film as he showed up, which is as a villain.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, you know, it's a funny thing as a filmmaker. You're like, I really want you to demonstrate this change. Oh, you won't? Okay, this is all I have. And you look really bad. You know, but I think from a parent's perspective, like, I don't know, there's points of entry, right? It's either through the school board, through the PTA, through the Coaches Alliance, or the students. So I think we just need multiple points of pressure. But now this film is out, our toolkit is out. There are tools if they want to learn. I think sometimes it's like parents or students have to put it in front of their face and say, I don't want my son playing on this team unless you guys are real clear about rape culture and sexism.
Yes.
That's a positive athletic culture.
I'm excited to see this toolkit. Alex, did you have any thoughts about that? Okay. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I just want to be able to give you the opportunity. Okay, so this may have already been covered in the film, but was it difficult working with law enforcement? Yes, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was difficult. They did already address this. It was very difficult to work with law enforcement, right? What would you say though, I mean, if you had to do a percentage, like, you know, 50-50, 70-30, like how many were on board with you making this film?
Oh, I mean, I had actually good participation with law enforcement because I came to them after
it was over. Okay.
It was over, and also they had looked really bad. So one of them, the officer JP Rigaud, who led the investigation, had sort of been taken out of the police force and works for the state of Ohio. So it was more like, you guys solved the case, and they did a okay job. You know, they did their job and they investigated kids. And so I framed it like, I really want to show all the amazing work you did with social media to solve this case, even though we know Alex did the work. Yeah. So they were kind of excited to show off what they had done, you know, and they got convictions. And cops are not prevention officers. Their job is not to prevent rape. Like that's sex education, that's coaches, that's parents teaching, right? So they got a lot of crap, the police, but actually they like were called in after and investigated and did their job. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Alex, just in case this question was for your involvement. So working with the law enforcement, once evidence became more known, you know, once you did the anonymous setup and the girls were outside and telling their story, and, you know, there seemed to be a shift in believing what had happened, or at least coming to terms that this girl may have actually been victimized. do you see, was it easier for law enforcement to work with law enforcement, or were they still been out of shape with you being involved?
I never worked hand in hand with them in the beginning. I always had like little back channels to people in the police department and the chief. But after all of this, I've had several, because I used to live in Steubenville and I knew a lot of the cops on the force. And so I've had, quite a few that sent me messages and contacted me and, thanked me. As far as, I didn't work hand in hand with them. Like, I think in the beginning, because so many people in Steubenville were mad at me. I mean, I even had the assistant prosecuting attorney harassing me online. So I was not, a favored name around the old drinking fountain down there for a while.
Okay. To your point, I believe this is Nancy's point. To your point about men solving the problem of crimes against women, you are a minority in the industry as a female director. So it's unsurprising that you are the one telling these stories, and thank you for doing that. Did you find it easy to get this film made, or did people back this project? Did people back this project right away? What was that process like?
I love that question. I feel like actually in documentary, it's a funny thing. It's like there's a lot of women directors, but the gatekeepers are men.
Interesting.
Right? So the women are like getting the work done and the men are like, yes, no, I can go here. Here's money. Oh, this person gets more money. So I got a lot of support for this film, and it was all from women investors. So I also like to point that out. Like, we're so lucky. We had all these incredible women. Where are the dudes, man? Where are the guys being like, yeah, I want an EP. I want to put your name on this movie. What's awesome is that people see the film trending on Netflix and think it's about football, and they get excited. And then all these guys 80 minutes later are like, oh my God, what just happened? I'm like, fooled you. Literally designed this film for male audiences. I wanted to keep them in their seat. So got to grab them in the first 3 minutes and make it a thriller. It's not a whodunit, but it's close, So because I needed that audience, so I feel really lucky that I had a lot of incredible women supporters, but selling it. So we sold to PBS. We kicked off their season. Netflix bought us later, but none of the, big bruisery, more, I think Fox Sports had been interested in the film, but they were just so scared to put it out there. And it's like the gatekeepers decide who they think the audience is. And I, pleasantly surprised everybody with the film, which is great. But so I feel lucky about the making of it. The distribution was phenomenal, but it was like I had to prove it every step of the way. Every festival led to another festival, but I had to show up, I had to push it. People were scared, I think. They thought, oh, a film about rape. Oh, I think we've seen this. Oh, boo-hoo. And it is boo-hoo, but it's also a punch in the gut. Because this is not about begging audiences to care about rape victims. A, they already should, and B, they're not the problem. So I really wanted to make a film about the problem. So yeah, that's what I got.
Okay. Do either of you know how often this happens across the country? For sure, we know that it's incredibly underreported, but how many are reported?
The general statistic in the Department of Justice is 1 in 4 women are raped, but I think the numbers are probably higher. 1 in 4 is probably conservative.
Are you saying in general, or are you saying on college campuses?
Well, this was a high school assault.
Or high school, that's right. That's right.
Teenagers, the CDC about 8 years ago said 1 in 3 young people had experienced violence in their relationship. So those are teens. I think without sex education and proliferation of online porn and no young children learning about what is consent, what is respect, what are boundaries, I think it's a very dangerous, we live in a dangerous and violent culture. I showed this film in the Czech Republic and the teens were shocked. They were crying. And I was like, oh, I'm so desensitized Yeah, this is American high school. It is not unusual. I think we're all a little bit desensitized. We live in a very violent culture.
Agreed. Do you know where Trent and Malik are now?
Alex, you want to take it?
That's the $1 million question, right?
Yeah. The last I heard, Trent had reoffended. The young lady did not file charges and instead left college. And he was, I believe, quarterback or captain of the team for Central State University. It's a little college in Ohio. He, I guess, took a year off from school, so I don't know if he's back. And as far as Malik, the last I saw, he was volunteer football coaching for a like kids football camp, and I heard he's trying to go pro.
Nice.
So their lives went on without
Yeah, they did, and that's what I was.
repercussion.
I was explaining to my son, which leads me to my next question. Well, not my question. Someone asked this: was 1 year the max punishment allowable due to them being underage? Was the 1 year max? Is that the max? 1 year?
No, they could have kept them until they were 18 and then could have put them in an adult institution. But because both of them, you know, their age and they weren't found guilty, they were adjudicated delinquent. So it's a big difference in the law because they were juveniles. And Trent did more time because, in my opinion, he's a monster. But
he did more time because he took the photo. So
Yes.
they got to
Right.
charge him with an additional thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I was telling my son. He saw 1 year and he was like, oh, so they got 1 year here and 2 years there. And I'm like, right, but the girl has to live with this for the rest of her life. And they get to go on with their
sex
lives.
offender anymore.
Yeah, they get to go on with their lives and play football, and she's still trying to put all the pieces back together. So I think we have a few minutes. With respect to her privacy, while we're asking about Trent and Malik, with respect to her privacy, do either of you know how Jane Doe is doing today?
Yeah, she's doing great. She's she finished college. She's partnered with someone. She's in love. She's doing great. She was always a very resilient girl. And yeah, she has moved on. And so I also just want to be careful about when we talk about like survivors of sexual violence. It's not, we're not broken forever. No, it's terrible and awful. And Alex and I do our work because we're angry about it and we want it to change. Jane Doe didn't want to be an activist, which is absolutely her right. I think we put a lot of pressure on victims, especially during Me Too, to come forward and speak out. It's like, it's a shit show when you come forward. I mean, it's really hard. So that's why we advocate, you know, but she's living her life and in privacy, which is wonderful. Yeah, so Trent, just to say something about town, that while they seem horrific, I think the tears you saw from Malik were genuine. This is a kid who felt remorse. It doesn't mean he didn't do it, but he had a very human response to what he did. And Jane Doe's family forgave him on the stand when he was apologizing. And people in town, not just because he's a good football player, but that's a big part of it, did have good words for Malik as a kid who really messed up. Whereas even in this town that's dug in their heels, did not have good words to say about Trent.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
And then I wonder, when he got the second charge, did he get a backlash from the community, or was he still supported?
I don't think, I mean, look, they're going to defend the team and defend against the media and outsiders and all this other crap, but people didn't like get up in arms on behalf of Trent Mays, right, Alex? I mean, he didn't. I think people were disgusted and horrified by what they learned. And I don't think his behavior in court served him very well.
And do you have any upcoming projects, either one of you?
I'm going to be talking to Alex about this shortly, but I'm publishing a book sort of detailing this case and how it fits into the Me Too movement, and then doing the last third of it and a sort of deeper where are they now. So we'll have better answers for if anything has changed and how the past 4 years of a Trump presidency has either dug in heels or opened things up. So I'm really curious to kind of look at the town through that lens, and I'm definitely going to need Alex's help in tracking people down and collaborating with me on the last portion of the book. So that's coming up.
Yeah, excited for that. We'll have to stay in touch so we can find out when that comes out. Alex, did you have any projects related to women against or crimes against women or this particular story?
No, I'm doing some consulting and research on a Canadian documentary. It's with boys who were molested in a town called Cornwall, and I've just recently been asked to help on a huge police violence civil rights lawsuit. So those are things I'm doing.
That's great. Good luck to you both. And I just want to share this. First, I want to say to the attendees that the materials that Nancy referred to can be found at www.rollredrollfilm.com. Also in the chat box, there's a link so that we can evaluate the film screening. Jan, our CEO, she's supportive of all of our work here at CACA, and she was on the line here for the film. And she said that it was brave and informative. Thank you to Nancy and Alex for being the voices for those who feel they have none. Great showing, great film. And then also another comment here. It's hard to stand up, speak up for others. Social media can be brutal. So Alex, thank you for your courage. Being bullied online is painful. You have done something powerful here. And Nancy, this movie is so very hard to watch, but it's so necessary. So I echo those sentiments. Thank you all so much for spending your evening with us and for your work on this film, your work in Steubenville. And just keep forging ahead, and we will support you. Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.